100, he ain't 1,000, he ain't 1,000,000, but he's a Brazilian. Yo, why don't you guys give a welcome, Sean Laser, my dude.
Can you introduce me that way every time? That's great. I appreciate that. Good stuff. So, like you said, I'm down in Plantation, and so if you ever want to come out there, we're in a series right now of disappointed hopes and dreams, and I know that doesn't apply to you. That's just me that's been let down by the Lord, but you might fit in if that's you. So we're going through that right now. I'm going to just pray real quick, and then we're going to get into some of Habakkuk's disappointments. So let's ride with the story and see what God wants to do with us. Jesus, my nerves are wrecked right now, and to come back here 7 years after Icon served me and to be teaching here is such an honor, and I pray that I would be humble as I approach and leave this place to give you all the applause, the attention, the accolades. It's all yours, God. We love you, and I think that's why we're here. So show us something to take away from your word right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, good stuff. Yeah, I got a lot of love for Icon. I met my wife in Icon 7 years ago. Then married her to a few years later. It took me a while to figure out how she would actually settle for a guy like me. But so Habakkuk is interesting where we're at, chapter 2. And to give you some understanding, if this is the first time you're riding with us today, is Habakkuk is a prophet. And a prophet of God was somebody who would be almost married to God, as weird as that terminology is. That someone who would commit their life to just hearing from God, understanding God's purpose and plan. And Habakkuk is actually a good prophet. If you've read already through the book, you go, well, dude, I mean, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't talk to anybody. He complains about God. He's mostly confused. How is that a good prophet? Because I can tell you a bad prophet. There's this guy named Jonah. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Jonah. If you don't know his story, you'll see that he's a bad prophet. But before we even go into Bible stuff, I just want to ask you guys, who here has ever been disappointed before? Okay? I mean, you remember that Christmas, right? Right? It was that you were in elementary school. For me, there was this remote control car out that literally drove up walls, right? And my mom, I'm going to get that for you because you drive me up the walls. I'm like, I don't care. Just give me that thing, bro. Like, okay, so I wanted it, and I knew more or less how big the box was because in my day, we would have to circle on the catalog of Toys R Us what we wanted. Right now, y'all just go on Amazon, and I get you. Okay, but yeah, I mean, I had to circle it, and I looked at it at the store, and I knew how it was supposed to look and the size of the box, right? So the first thing you do when you get to the tree is, listen to the tree. Where's the box? It's got my name on it. This is it. Right? So I get into that box, bro, and Grandma bought me clothes. And I'm thinking, no, but it's not the car. And then what do? Look for box number 2, right? Is it in box? And it wasn't there. And that year, I went disappointed. Many years I've been blessed, but that was not my year. And so that, kind of sucks, right? I mean, we'd all agree that's disappointing. And maybe you've been disappointed by traffic, right? Who here hates traffic? Anyone hates traffic? Okay. Now, here's the thing, right? You're trying to get somewhere, traffic sucks. But what if there's an event you're not really trying to get to, right? And then you hit some traffic. Bummer. Yeah, Mom, I don't think I'm going to make it. Yeah, I'm disappointed too, right? But it's still traffic, right? It's still that horrible, congested thing. But why all of a sudden, right? Because one you don't like, one you like. Well, it's not the traffic, right? It's the thing you're hoping, expecting, and dreaming about. It's what's coming that changes the way you handle a situation. So today when we talk about expectations, I hope you understand it from those 2 points of view. With expectations, I have a very real memorable story where this guy who works with me here at Calvary, he challenged me while I was in my early stages of dating my wife. He's like, bro, you need to check if she's real. I'm like, she's real, right? St. Jesus and Thomas, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, no, is she really going to be honest with you? Is she going to give you grace and truth? Is she going to challenge you? Is she going to, I'm like, listen, okay, we're 2 months in, calm down. But that's what you do in Christian circles, right? You give people assignments and things to do, and you're like, my mama does that. So I'm all right, well, what do I have to do? He's like, you got to disappoint her. I'm like, I'm good at that. Sign me up. I disappoint people all the time. So what he challenged me to do is disappoint her and see how she'll respond, right? And so I'm like, okay. So I hit her up, and I'm like, hey, I want to take you out tonight. She goes, wow, right? And so if a guy said that to you girls, how many of y'all already know what you're going to wear, or you're already thinking about what you're going to wear? You won't know what you're going to wear until 30 minutes after you should have left. But, she's already there, I'm sure. And then I'm like, and I got you something, right? And now you're like, oh my gosh, what did he get? Yeah, what did he get her? You're not gonna like this. So I show up to the door, right? And whatever, knock on the door. And she opens the door, and there's me. I got my PJ pants on, right? Chilling. And she's like, she's looking hot, like just smoking. And she's like, kind of like shell-shocked, like, come in. Come in. And even her cousin lives with her there, and she's like, what's the deal? Oh my, I know what's going on. So I sit down, like, I'm so sorry. I got to leave. But hey, I did get you something. Boom. I swear, it's a hot sauce bottle that I had ripped the label off of, and I put a flower in it that I had gotten on my run that morning. Like, little dinky flower, right? And I'm like, and she's like, thanks. And I'm like, within 5 minutes, I'm gone, right? I'm out. And I literally felt so stupid. Like, I'm leaving, and I'm like, I lost her. I literally lost. I'm going to go kill that guy. Like, and so the next day, I can't wait till the morning comes. I'm like calling her, hey, can we meet up now? Before you make any decisions, I just want to talk. And so at her house, I'm like, hey, so about last night, how did you feel? And she's like, well, to be honest, I was kind of disappointed. And I'm like, I can't imagine why. And but I understand and things happen, but just next time, if you could just give me a heads up, that would really help me. I'm like, whoa, that is a godly response, right? Anybody here not think I just landed the best girl in the world? That is not how maybe I'd respond even. But I'm like, okay, well, just to tell you the truth, I was actually playing a test, and she's like, oh, you didn't, and I'm like, I did. But then she got me back later, which is not funny. So I think Nicole is in here. I think you challenged her to do this. You did! You suck. I love you. Nicole is awesome. She was hanging with my wife at the time. And she was like, hey, I guess the challenge was for her to check me on my calling, or if I'm a man of integrity, or, whatever. So she basically comes at me one night and is like, Sean, I'm a baker, right? And she's a Cuban girl, bakes so well. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm dating you. No, that's not what I meant. And she's like, no, but, I just been thinking about it. I just don't think, as a baker, I know you want to be a pastor someday and you feel called by God, but I just don't think it's going to work out. I'm like, girl, Jesus made bread. We can figure this out. I don't think this is exclusive. She's like, no, I really don't. And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? So I go home that night, and I'm devastated. I'm journaling because, only guys who are dating journal. And it's the only time I've ever journaled. And because I want her to see it someday if I can still land this girl you hurt me, you punk. And so I'm journaling. I'm like, but I think I'm pretty broken. I might even be having some tears. I'm like, God, you brought me to this girl, and now you take her away. That sucks. And then the next day, right, she comes at me early, hey, so about last night. I'm like, no, wait. And she's like, yeah, because I'm literally there all night thinking Jesus isn't gluten-free. This can happen. And she tells me that she was doing that same test on me. So she got me back. Don't feel bad. So this is a whole expectation thing, right? And there's a guy in the Bible who deals with a very similar disappointment, one of those what? And it's Jonah. He's a prophet in the Bible who he shows up on the scene. I'm going to just summarize Jonah as tiny as I can, but he basically gets challenged by God to go to a group of people that he doesn't like, right? So it's whoever, you're kind of prejudiced towards, man, those people get so many privileges. Man, those people don't act right. Those people got to stay on their side of the, right? And then we just do that a little bit because we're human. So not you, right? Just me, because I suck, I guess, and nobody else does this. But, I have people that sometimes I can be a little bit negative towards, and I have to work around it. And it's that's the people that God sent him to. But Jonah wasn't just a little prejudice. He's like, I'm not going to those people at all. So where does Jonah go? The opposite direction. I'm heading this way. He gets up on a boat, and now he's on this boat. It's out in the water, and then it starts to basically come down. We got sailors, right? Disciplined, well-trained sailors that go, we're going to die, okay? Any boat people here, right? If you are a boat person and you say we're going to die, I'm going to cry on your boat. I'm going to be up underneath, whatever I can get, because it means something. And then he basically gets picked out by sort of this system, and they go, wait, it's you. What did you do? And he goes, well, I follow the God of the Jews. And then all of a sudden, everyone goes, what?
That's like, that God is real. We thought it was just Neptune, right? Like Ariel's dad with the trident was coming after us. But you're saying the God of the Hebrews? No, bro, you can't mess with that guy. And that actually is why I think one of the coolest things about the Old Testament, like a lot of us read it or don't read it because we don't understand it. You go, what's the deal, right? The whole thing in the Old Testament, I'm going to just give you like the 5th grade version of this. I got time. All right. Because I used to teach Calvary kids. What up? I saw some of y'all with that shirt. And so I used to teach 5th graders. And I'm like, they're like, why is God in the Old Testament so mean? And the New Testament, God's so nice, right? And like, that is actually a really good question. So here's the worst answer I have, but the best I can come up with. So it's kind of like this. I'm half Brazilian, right? So he was only half right. I'm a half billion. And Brazilian. But I'm positive that it's not this half because I cannot dance or play soccer for the life of me, right? And so I used to play soccer like middle school or something, and I was never first. I was never a starter. I just sucked so bad. And it didn't defeat me. I didn't know I was that bad. I was just like, why don't I ever get to start? But it wasn't old enough to realize. I was like, you're not very good. So I would just kind of wait. And it was neat because I'd actually watched this one coach. There's only one coach that ever did this, but kind of because he had like this idea that we were like an NFL team, and he wanted us to like watch the other team and see how they played and then change his strategy. I'm like, middle school like soccer, there's no strategy. Like, let's just play. But he wanted to have strategy. So the way he would do it is for the first half of the game, he would say, guys, just play defensive. All right. We're going to watch them. We're not going to let any goals in. We're just going to hold it tight, clench. I'm like, okay, we're going to hold it tight. And then after first half, we would, we'd kind of talk like, okay, here's what we noticed. Okay, you cover him. You're a striker now. And so we kind of make the arrangements, and I'm still sitting on the bench like, yeah, good idea. And so then the next half would come, and we had this guy, bro, he scored goals like it was his job. I mean, he would get us up like 5, 6, 7 points, right? I mean, talking like Brazil, Germany, which I still cry about that game. Like, they were just up there, and so, he got the score, and so now it's the last 10 minutes of the game. And this is Sean's moment to shine, right? Like little me. And coach is like, get in the game. You can't screw it up at this point. And so I literally am allowed to play the game at this point. And the whole last 10 minutes, coach is not hard on us. Coach, like if we're winning, coach is just like, man, just play, guys. Just get out there, have fun. Might have scored a goal once. I don't even think I remember. But, I mean, we just would play. And it was just a different kind of game. And you're like, where did soccer come into this? You are Brazilian. I promise there's a reason. So I honestly think the Bible is a little bit like that, and it's not my theory. This is the fact. It's that the law of the Old Testament was meant to preserve the people, right? There's even some stuff that you're like, that's racist. Like, you can't intermarry with those people. You got to stay away from those. You got to kill off those. Like, that's nasty. Okay, hold on, calm down. If you're someone trying to preserve a certain look and a certain group of people to be easily identified by the world, what do? You say, you stay here. So everybody knows who you are, right? I mean, that's just how you do it. If they start interbreeding and everything starts going haywire and everyone starts acting the way everyone else acts, you can't identify those are Hebrews and those people got a real God. So he's preserving them, right? So just relax when you read some of those parts. Like, what is that? It's preservation, okay? That is God the founder, not God the Father, all right? So it's okay. Because once he's done founding it, then this guy, this star player of his, I don't know if you know his name, Jesus, right? He shows up. And he just kills it. I mean, game over, bro. He kills sin and death. It's all done. There's nothing left to fight for. He has destroyed the enemy. He has crushed the head of the serpent. He has done away with all of our works-based mentality where I got to earn it. I got to stay pure. I got to stay clean. I can't intermarry. He's like, no, out with that. I'm sorry, not because I don't love it. I started it, but it's not helpful anymore. That whole first half, literally, coach would get mad if we started playing defense in the second half. You're like, no, that's over. Offense, let's go. All right, get with Jesus. Help him score, right? So now we're in the last, I don't know if you know this, we're in the season of the dispensation of God's grace. We're in the time where God is using guys like me and putting me in front of people like you. He's using us because we're in the last 10 minutes of the game, guys. He's coming back. And in this last 10 minutes of the game, everyone gets to play. And so you guys all get to be Brazilian for the last 10 minutes, right? We all get to go out there, right? We play, we kick each other, we kick our faces, we kick everything. We scored the wrong goal, right? Most of y'all are laughing because that's you too, okay? And we're like, I can't believe I'm a Christian. They let me in the club. That's it. That's our life. That's what we're doing. So now you understand a little bit of why God has to be the way he is with Habakkuk, because what he's trying to do is refine and purify his people. And so now everyone knows Jonah's like the real deal. Jonah's got the real God because they know the God of the Hebrews because those people were pure enough that they could kind of identify them. And they're like, okay, dude, you're out. So what did they do? throw him into the water. Now, I don't know if you ever pictured this, but they're in a boat, right? And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, hey, Jonah. And then it stops. Hey, guys. Hey, Jonah. Can I get back in? No. And then a whale comes up and eats him, right? And so, okay, now he's dead, right? But he's not. And in the belly of the whale, he prays this really elaborate poetic prayer. But at the end of the prayer, he goes, God, I'll fulfill all my vows. I'll do what you said. Which kind of sounds like, oh, he came around. He changed. But the problem is he comes out of the whale, right? The whale decides he doesn't like Mediterranean food and spits him up onto land. And then he comes and preaches this amazing sermon, right, to the Ninevites. And here's how it goes. Repent, or in 40 days, this place is on the ground. Adios. Like, if I came up and said that, you'd be like, I'm not going back to that icon place. That guy's whack, right? But he did that, right? Now, does that sound like a real change of heart? No, it just sounds like the guy just, I'm freaking going to preach a sermon. I'll show you a sermon. God, repent! All right, that's horrible. Okay, calm down, bro. You mad? So then he runs off into the desert. He's storming. There's moments where he says this twice. He goes, you might as well kill me instead of those Ninevites. And I'm like, if I'm like God, I'm like, I'm about to kill you, right? Like, yeah, act right. You're a prophet. And he's out there fussing, and a little plant kind of gives him some shade. He's like, oh, I like this plant. And then what happens? God kills the plant. And he freaks out again. You might as well have killed me before. And God's like, you keep up with this killing thing, and I'm going to show you, all right, that I'm God. But he doesn't do that. He goes, Jonah, you're mad about this plant, but you did nothing to grow it or put it there in the first place. You're freaked out about that, but you don't even care about thousands and thousands and thousands of Ninevites who were all going to hell. And what's wrong with you? You had some whack expectations, bro. You thought that God, me, I had to tell you where to go, where you wanted to go, and I was going to make everything work out for you. I mean, that's crazy, right? He is a prophet. He's just supposed to do what God says. But his expectations got him in a weird place. And you've been there too. I've been there too. You had an expectation of how God would be with you or your family or your situation or your church or your school. And then it didn't happen, or something horrible, just disgusting, terrible. If I heard your story, I'd cry right now. But something happened to you, and you just became like a Jonah. You just start running. You start compromising. You start manipulating. Kill me now, God. And God's like, hold on. Like, I want to talk to you about that. And so we run into now the story of Habakkuk. And you're like, all right, how are you going to do 2 books in one talk? Like, well, because it's the same thing. Habakkuk's also a prophet. But Habakkuk, instead of taking flight and running, he doesn't do that. He comes at God and like, God, like, I want to talk to you about this. I don't get any of this. And if you've already been with us, you know the dialogue. It's, God, your people are acting terrible. I mean, really, like, they're doing horrible things. There's oppression. There's just terrible crime going on. I mean, this is not the way it's supposed to be. He's broken. And then God goes, well, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send Babylon, right? And I'm going to use Babylon, and if you know the history, they're going to take Israel captive for 70 years, which is long enough for a generation to die out. It's like, I'm going to use Babylon, and they're going to set you guys right. And now all of a sudden he goes, well, hold on now, like Babylon, no, this isn't what we discussed. That's not my expectation. I was kind of hoping you would just change people's hearts. You ever pray that? Lord, just get this girl right. Like, I don't, like, get my parents to stop. Like, can you just start my, like, and he just wanted instant change, right? But God goes, no. I'm going to use discipline, because this is Old Testament, guys. And not that he don't use it now, but this is the way he managed his stuff. And so he, instead of doing the way that Habakkuk wanted, he's doing it a different manner. And Habakkuk then comes at him again. No, seriously, this is not the way I expected. This is not what I had hoped. But he still keeps the dialogue going. And in Habakkuk chapter 2, God keeps the dialogue going with him and says, okay, well, here's the deal. I'm going to handle any town, Judah, the Babylonians, in fact, even people like, 2018 people, I'm going to handle them in this manner. Okay, I'm gonna do this with people who have pride, because he's going to start talking about the prideful Babylonians. But he says something that actually applies as a law seemingly across human history. It kind of gives you a taste of why certain things happen to people in power and people with pride, and how they fall and weird things happen. And then Papa John's has to get kicked out of his own company, right? Like, how does that happen, right? Because there is just this law. All right, believe it or not, God doesn't necessarily stop time jumping and flick the guy off of his chair. He goes, there's just this general law. When people are prideful, these things just happen, and this is how it's going to play out. So we're going to get into that. And the reason is the reason we need to read this is because our hearts need to hear. Our hearts need to hear God answer his prayers in a different way than he expects. So we're going to actually just go right through the woes. But if you happen to be there in Habakkuk chapter 2, he says this thing, and we'll revisit it. He says, see, these people, he's puffed up. His desires are not upright. The righteous will live by his faith. We'll revisit that. What does that mean, the righteous will live by their faith? Indeed, wine betrays him. He's arrogant and never at rest. He's greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied. Okay, this is a description of people you and I know, right? These people who want more, and everything is an appetite, guys. So the more you feed it, the more it what? Grows, okay? It grows, all right? You're like, no, this is the last time I do that, and then I'm going to commit to God. Okay, do it one more time and see if it doesn't grow, right? Just try it, okay? This is how it works. And so he then goes into the woes, and these are the things God is saying. This is not the prophet. This is God speaking through the prophet saying, woe is to this group of people. Okay, so let's go through our first woe. It's going to be easier if we just do it off the screen. Woe to him who piles up stolen goods. Okay, woe to him who steals. And what is his response? Because you have plundered many nations, the peoples who are left will plunder you. Okay, steal from a bunch of people. Find out if it doesn't get taken from you eventually. Anybody surprised by that? I mean, anyone know somebody who's like, no, I'm just going to take this one time, and then it becomes a habit, it's a growth of an appetite, and now it's like you've made a career out of fraud. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you straight take from the you don't realize it, but you're a loan shark. Like, you're doing crazy things, and that's there's people that have whole careers. Drive by the big buildings downtown Fort Lauderdale, and there's a good percentage of people in those nice offices that, if you really boil down their job to what it is, it's like, dude, you take from the poor. Like, you know where that money comes from? So this is just the truth, that many of those people will lose their wealth. And that's across history. Go read a history book or revisit your history teacher back in high school. What's another woe? We've got, woe to him who builds his realm by unjust gain to escape the clutches of ruin. So again, he's talking about the Babylonians. The first time he's like, God, these guys have been stealing. These guys have been building their whole realm through unjust means. And so God's saying that they're going to go to ruin. And so what's the response? The stones of the walls will cry out, and the beams of the woodworks will echo it. So he's saying that, okay, Habakkuk's like, this is not what I'm asking. I want you to change the Judeans and not use the Babylonians. Why are you telling me about what happens to prideful people? Does that ever happen to you? You're praying about somebody changing, and God comes at you and be like, you've been a little prideful, actually. You're like, oh, God, let's not go there. Like, I can talk about that tomorrow. Like, I'll be here tomorrow, right? Not if I don't want you to be. So what is he saying here? He's like, this story will go down in history that these people have taken from others. And guess what? In Berlin, Germany, there's this. This is the wall of the Babylonians. And it lives as history of their idolatry. You see any other idols there? And they're pillaging and rape and steal, all that good stuff they did. Okay, that was all recorded. And now we recognize the Babylonians as who they were, but primarily for their intense behavior, and it's gone down in history, just like God predicted it would thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Interesting, right? I mean, we don't have inventions by the Babylonians that we've kept and go, man, thank goodness they created this way to make food. No, it's, hey, here's their idols. Cool. All right, next slide. Woe. This is the third woe because there's 5 of them. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and establishes a town by crime. Okay, he's saying, don't do that. Here's why. Next. Response. Has not the Lord Almighty determined that people's labor is only fuel for the fire, that the nations exhaust themselves for nothing? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Okay? This is just a reality, but so much of that behavior is basically just fueling the fire. Now, what happens when you add more sticks to the fire? Any Boy Scouts in here? Eagle Scouts? Come on. You add more sticks to the fire, and now what do you need to add more of? Add more sticks to the fire, or gasoline if you're trying to blow something up. Thank you for that. If you build a fire too big, in order to sustain it, you just add more and add more. And you know that, right? Because you've kind of gone onto Amazon just like me, especially during this time of year, and you're like, oh man, I need one of those. And then it says underneath, people who bought this also bought. I'm like, I need one of those too. And then it's like, you may also be interested in it. I am. And then you pick that. And before you know it, I say, I need a place to store those things. babe, let's go to IKEA, right? Like, so now my IKEA, I'm like, why didn't I need this shelf last week? Oh, because I didn't have half of the things that I just bought that now I need to put in that freaking shelf. So now what's happening? That it's all fueling a fire, and eventually I'm just not going to look at it in the next couple weeks. It's going to be clutter and a problem, and then I'm going to feel good when I get rid of it. Isn't that terrible? Like, some of you guys have your best days when you finally throw out stuff you spent money on. That's nuts. If you think about it, I mean, light the note on fire right now and then go to jail, okay? Let's go to the next woe. So these are just ideas, right? These are things that we find to be true. Woe to him who gives drinks to his neighbors, pouring it from the wineskin until they are drunk, so that he can gaze on their naked bodies, okay? This is basically, that's in the Bible. That's why you should read it. So he's basically saying is like, there's people out there who literally just want to see other people make fools of themselves. And I remember this when I was probably 21 or 22, and I had, because I'd been drinking so much sooner, I think the last time I drank was 21, and then all my friends were like bugging me at the bars, and I'm still hanging out with them, but like not drinking, and like, dude, like, come on, drink. And I remember one guy's like, come on, bro, stop acting like you're better than everyone else, freaking drink. I'm like, dude, it benefits you for me to stay sober so I can drive your drunk butt home. Leave me alone. Like, what is this in people that need to see you freak out and go nuts and go crazy? Like, dude, I'm changed. Like, you don't like that. I get it. Just say it out loud instead of trying to get me drunk. Let it go. And so this is the thing. Some people, you don't think this. You're like, but Sean, they're my friends. Like, leave them alone. No, they're not, okay? They might just be wanting to see you fall so they don't have to feel guilty about church, all right? You can take all their grandma guilt away. Oh, look at that Christian. He got sloshed. Okay, great. That's not a great excuse, but people do that anyway. Okay, now what's the result of these people? This one's pretty brutal. You'll be filled with shame instead of glory. Now it's your turn. Drink and be exposed. Okay, this doesn't mean go get drunk and get naked. The cup from the Lord's right hand is coming around to you, and disgrace will cover your glory. Revelation says that God will pour out his cup of wrath on those who have the mark of the beast. This is previewing this. And throughout the Bible, there's a cup of suffering, right? Jesus said, I don't even want to take this cup. If you'll let it pass, I don't want God's wrath. I don't want to suffer. But he says that cup is reserved for people like this, okay? You want to get drunk? You want to get naked? I will give you everything you want, and you will be naked and ashamed. And when we get to heaven, the key terminology that says you get in is you're rocking the gear. You know what I'm saying? You got that white robe? You got the white robe? Okay, cool. You're in, right? You naked? Sorry. Can't have that in heaven. It wouldn't be heaven if a bunch of naked people were walking around, okay? That's just, at least not for me. Then we got our fifth woe. Let's go to woe 5. Woe to him who says to wood, come to life, okay? And now what's the next slide? We got a response. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Okay, what's he saying here? Obviously, you can tell if you know any Old Testament history. This is idolatry. He's saying, man, woe to these people, sad for these people who think that like actual wood statues, things actually come to life and will save them. Okay, this is a sad state of affairs. So you're saying, Sean, that was God's response. He wants the people that he loves to change and the people that he hates to go away. That's God's response. Some of you are like, that's not a good answer. Okay, I have real issues, Sean. I don't need a Bible verse. I need a solution, okay? And I have had that too. It was only a year ago, I put up a picture of my family. That's my wife and I, my daughter Luana, and my little boy Levi. And Luana was 1 year old. Now she's 2. So 1 year old, we're bunked up for the hurricane at my cousin's house because our area was evacuated. And Irma, right? Anybody, big liver, lots of problems. And she starts throwing up blood. And I don't mean like blood, like horror movie stuff. And what? God, out of all the nights, I thought this so clear, out of all the freaking nights, I probably didn't use the freaking word. Like, seriously, I can't drive. And literally, she's throwing up blood. There's no options, no 911. We just put her in the car. We start driving through the storm. Okay? Get to this place. We tell them what we know. Look, all we know is she has medical issues. We've been trying to figure it out. She normally goes to Broward General. She has an enlarged liver. Wait, what? An enlarged liver, like really sick liver. Okay, and she's throwing up blood. Man, I've never seen people move so fast. Red light. Somebody in here is in nursing school, and you know that that's a sign that child is going to die. Okay, that this is a serious issue. And so we're thinking, like, tell us what you think. Like, why are you doing this? And then they go, no, we can't even handle a case like this. You need to go to Joe DiMaggio, or you need to go to your hospital. Like, our hospital's in evacuation zones. They're like, we need to go to Joe DiMaggio. We're going to take you now. So they take us in the ambulance. The ambulance is getting rocked by the wind and the waves and all that. And get there, trying to figure out everything. They sort of stabilize it. We spent over a month in the hospital with this sick kid, basically thinking she's dying for half the time. And it finally comes that we get a diagnosis. And they go, well, I know it's good to get an answer, but you're not going to like what you're going to hear. your daughter has a rare genetic disease, and it'll shorten the quality and the quantity of her life. She will develop certain forms of cancer. She'll have lots of issues. We're going to need to perform surgery tomorrow. There's a lot that's going to change for you. I'm thinking again, like, this isn't real. There's no way that this just happened. And I spent the rest of my time in the hospital literally like not reading my Bible, not talking to God, not really talking to my wife, like just very, very cold. And the only book I'd pick up was somebody left me a book that said Disappointment with God, and I read that one. Go figure. And because that's how I was feeling. And to eventually get out of the hospital, and one day I'm at a church function, believers, and there's music, and I'm just crying, just freaking wrecked. And I'm like, I cannot get a hold of myself. And somebody comes up to me, he's like, hey man, like, what's going on? And I told him my story, and I'm like, and if I could just confess that one thing I've done, and maybe just like, I just feel like if I fasted, like just, I don't even know how long, but if I just would, and he stopped me, he's like, Sean, I just don't think it's that easy. And I like wanted to shake this dude. Like, you want to talk about easy? He's like, no, don't get me wrong. Like, I just don't think it's that easy that you can like manipulate God to do what you want him to do for your daughter. I got like this deep breath of fresh air in a sense, but it was also hard to stomach. I was like, I didn't realize that I was basically trying to get God to do what I needed him to do, like to fix my daughter, or at least reduce the sentence, or anything, anything. And so I'm still snotting and crying, but it took only months and months after that where I'm like, man, I really, really feel like with some time and really some counseling that I needed and some therapy, like I was able to kind of look my wife in the eye one day and go, babe, like I love Luana, and I love even her disease, like, because it's been tough. I mean, she has you can't see it, but both of my kids actually have a G-tube. It's a tube through which they are fed throughout the night. We wake up every 2 hours and to feed them through the tube so that they can maintain their blood sugar. And just some nights of not sleeping just felt like hell. And so I was able to say that even despite not sleeping. I was like, man, that's really like a change. But I already previewed something that then my son was born. And he too comes out. He's not breathing, and so they rush him to the NICU. We thought this was a normal baby, and 2 weeks later they go, well, your child can leave, but we've got a piece of paper for you, and we get a diagnosis. He has the exact same disease my daughter has. As it turns out, it's genetic. My wife and I carry the gene. We don't know it. We look fine. We're normal. But together we produce children with this condition, and we even have a third coming, which is a whole other thing I'm going to have to figure out. We don't know if they'll have the disease or not. But throughout this process, I watched myself do all three things that Jonah did. I ran, right? I mean, I didn't leave the hospital room because I didn't really have anywhere else to go, but I was not present in any of that hospital stay. Like, my wife would tell you that I was a corpse, okay? I was gone. And somebody here is a runner, and you're running not in the way that people run like Jonah. You like, internally you're gone, and only people that you care about you know that. And then some of y'all, and myself, I did this too, is manipulate, right? That whole scene with the guy in the worship session, it was me trying to manipulate God through good behavior, through some kind of confession or saying something or talking to somebody and making something happen. And it was manipulation, like God, like, literally Jonah, like, kill me now. So that, he basically puts himself between the Ninevites and himself. He goes, God, don't you love me? I mean, why don't you kill them instead of kill me? And God's like, again, I'm going to kill you. But he doesn't say that. But I was trying to manipulate God. Like, God, I need you to do this because I'm being righteous and good, and I'm behaving. And I tried to manipulate, and then the worst was compromise. Okay, some of y'all are doing this right now. You're just here because of compromise. You're like, okay, I'm going to attend. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to see if it works. Okay, I'm going to follow my freaking friend there. Okay, fine, right icon, sure. Okay, you're compromising. You're just going, right? You're the Jonah, just going to, okay, I'm going to preach a sermon. Yeah, I'll give you one. Okay, and you just put yourself out there, but you're not hard in it at all. You're just not even there. And the sad thing is, most Christians that I know have gone through a long season of this, where it's, I read my Bible every day, Sean. Okay, right? Like, my streak is good. Okay. As a middle school teller is telling me this, I don't do Snapchat, but he's like, Sean, there's this really cool thing, right? That if you talk to somebody consistently, then you build up a streak. And I'm like, oh, cool, okay. So, like, what's your longest streak? Oh, man, my boy and I, we got 400. I'm like, wow, 400 days. I mean, you guys must be so close. He's like, nah. What do you mean? Like, 400 days of talking to me? You mad close. He's like, no. It was, like, cool for, like, 4 days. And he goes, and after a while, like, we're just doing it. We're just kind of doing it for the streak. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And But, it's worse because, some of y'all parents, they're doing it for the streak, right? Like, oh, we're married, but my parents, like, I don't even know if they're in love, right? So I've seen streak from a close distance. Like, just, are you more committed to marriage or each other? Because I kind of want to be married to my wife and committed to her, not committed to the paperwork. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I don't know about you, but, like, that's something in my book. And so, like, why is it that we'll settle for the streak? Just to feel like, I'm good friends with that person. Oh, I'm married. Like, that has value in and of itself, but none of that counts at the end of the day. I mean, when it comes down to it, all of the woes that God was talking to Habakkuk about is like, a lot of those things aren't going to happen for a long time. That whole cup of judgment, you know when that happens, right? When the sinner goes to heaven and is naked and has no covering for sin. So Habakkuk's like, God, I want an answer today. And God's like, yeah, I'll take care of it when they die. And he's like, how long is that? Because if you did it today, I'd be happy. Right? And God's like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm going to take care of things when I'm going to take care of them. And so when I say Habakkuk was a winner, what I'm saying is Habakkuk knew, or through this conversation with God, he realized that God was going to answer things the way God was going to answer them. Some of them are just the way things are. Some of them sound almost like karma. Like, yes, if you steal, eventually it'll be stolen. Like, God, but I want an answer to the problems I'm facing. God, I'm frustrated about this political situation, my economic situation, my house situation. Where's my roommate situation? And you want an answer, and I do too. But here's the thing. I've got a list of hopes and dreams, right? I've got a box full of things, and maybe you do too. And they're things that I always wanted. And for me, the first one was I just didn't realize this, but I had this contract with God that he would give me a healthy daughter. Now, when did I write that? I have no idea. But you know when I realized I had written it? When I got so mad at him for taking her health away. Okay? I didn't realize that somewhere in my contract with God, I'll follow you, I'll serve you, I'll leave my six-figure job to work at the church because, I love you, you're the best, okay? And I thought I said in sickness and in health, but as it turns out, I said only in health, okay? And so when he took that away, I'm like, forget you, in the nicest possible way I'm going to say it, right? Okay? And so what else is in my box? Well, I don't know about you, but I realized that I have a house in my box. This spells house, H-O-U-S-E. And so I just have always thought, like, I would never be homeless. Okay, now you're like, well, duh, Sean, that's reasonable. I mean, we're in America. No, but seriously, depending on how you grew up, right? I grew up with all my siblings and I are healthy, so I just thought healthy kids was normal. And then I grew up in a house, so I kind of think, like, I'm not saying I have to live in a mansion. I've always thought I'd live indoors, okay? Maybe you too, right? That seems reasonable. Isn't it reasonable to want to live indoors, anybody? I never thought I'd be the guy on a bus. I didn't necessarily need to drive a car this fancy with spinners, but I never thought I'd be the guy in the bus. So, I tend to think, maybe you too, maybe you go, yeah. I've always thought I'd have a car, but Sean, my car situation is kind of complex, and I'm feeling kind of like frustrated with God. And sometimes it's this is a sheep. I stole most of these from my daughter. And it actually sings. Not very well anymore. But so you're like, what is the sheep about? Well, I've always just thought, I shouldn't have pulled it, now it's loud. Basically, I always just thought, like, hey, I would always be in a church with, nice people, right? Like sheep, God says we're sheep, right? And then one bites you, and you're like, the freak, like, Christians shouldn't do that. No, straight up, Christians, that's just not okay. Christians should be better than that. And now you realize sheep stink, and you're frustrated, right? Or you're having a hard time finding a church. I'm not even sure that's a church. Or you have a friend, right? And nobody's loyal like a little lab. And you just thought this friend would stick with you, right? And they didn't. And they betrayed you in the most backstabbing, disgusting. You don't even want to tell me the story because it gives you that gut, like stab in the gut feeling. And they did that to you. And they weren't loyal like you expected. And I'm not just trying to make light of your story. I can't cry with you from the stage because I wouldn't get through the rest of the 3 minutes here. But it's serious, and it's affected your faith. It's just straight up affected. You're not who you used to be, right? You're not. This was not what you expected. And Jesus looks at you and goes, "Hey, I understand. Judas, right? Jesus understood betrayal, but guys, what Jesus understood more than anything is he understood the cross. This was not his expectation. You know the scene, right? God, if you could do anything to just take this cup. We talked about the cup. I don't want to drink this. There's people I know that deserve this, but I do not want to drink this. But if you have to, if it's your will, I will." Okay? Jesus had to take on something he did not expect so that we could learn how to embrace upsetness and disappointment in a different way. Okay? Jesus got what he did not expect or deserve so that we could change our approach to being disappointed. It's a fact. Okay? It is not unreasonable to desire a healthy kid. Anyone going to hate me for that, right? Is it unreasonable for me to want my daughter to be 100%? Is it reasonable for me to even still pray, like, God, if you want to do something miraculous, like, I'm about it? No. But it's unreasonable to demand it. Everything in here is incredibly reasonable to expect and even hope for. But the minute it comes between your relationship with God and my relationship with God, it became a demand. And because he didn't do good on his promise, you don't have to do good on yours. And a lot of us put up fingers to God on that one and go, yep, you didn't, so I won't. Thank you. Habakkuk didn't do that. He didn't. He kept the conversation going. He was frustrated. He was scared. He didn't know what the heck was going on. He didn't like the Habakkuk 2 answers. Woe to what? But he does come around. And you see that he eventually sees God. I'm going to read something that's never read out loud like this. So when I was going through this, I told you I went through counseling, right? So I went through something called a redemption group they had here at Calvary at the time. And we saw them from time to time. But in this group, we go through 7 weeks with this group of men or group of girls. And the last week, you have to write a psalm. And you don't have to rhyme or you don't have to sing it, but you basically have to write your heart to God. So for my healing, I had to write the psalm to God. And this is the best thing I could do in the deepest pain I've ever felt. I copied a little bit from Psalm 74, and if you're a disappointed person, you might want to write that down and read it later, because this is just a deeply disappointed psalmist saying, God, there's no word from you, there's nothing going on, I don't know what's happening. And this is the deal. Habakkuk lived by faith, okay? When he says the just shall live by faith, what he's saying is, I don't know what's going to happen to my daughter. All I know is everyone says bad things are coming. But I have faith that God, if he took something out of my box, he plans to do something with it, okay? If he took it out of my box and said, you can't have this, there's a reason. But I'm just going to have to keep giving him the box. You know why? Because if I put that box in my wife's lap, you know how it feels? It'll break her legs. Somebody in here that your daddy left, you be strong for mom. And that box broke your freaking legs. And somebody put a box in, put a load on you. It's like, hey, you got to be strong for the family. You got to make some money. You got to keep going. Don't stop. Okay, don't get disappointed because mommy's gonna. And you just have been given boxes that aren't yours to carry. And now you're doing that to other people. You want that relationship to help you out. You give them your box. Here are my hope and dreams. Just make them all happen, please. It's reasonable, right? I mean, that's not hard. That's impossible. Literally, my wife will sometimes will not wake up, and my daughter's blood sugar will go low, and she will go into seizures or in near coma, right? And then my wife wakes up, and we scramble, have to feed the kid, and then you know what I feel in that moment? You freaking almost killed my kid. You almost took away my hopes and dreams to have a healthy child, and I can't even put that on her. Is that hers to carry? It's God's responsibility. If we don't wake up one day and I don't have a child, I can't blame that on me or the nurse or my wife or anyone. That's just not in the box. We're going to do the best we can. Guys, we're going to get the best medical help. But let me just tell you that at the end of the day, do you know who's in charge? Do you know who let that happen? Do we accept that? Do we acknowledge his power? Do we just say, God, even if I screwed up as best as I could, you still were sovereign? Is that possible? It's hard to accept. And this wasn't easy for me to say, but here's what I felt, and here's what I said. And I'll close with this. Okay. God, why isn't this getting any easier? Am I not your boy? Don't you want to use me and my family to serve your church? Wasn't this all your idea in the first place? I mean, maybe you could come back and visit this thing that was once a family, but it's now a bunch of tired eyes, frustrations, frantic insurance calls, and doctor's appointments. This is not helping anyone. Where we were healthy, now they're just sick. We were happy, not so much anymore. The enemy is gaining ground in my home, and you're just standing there. My wife is tired and lonely, but you give us more problems and less solutions. We cancel another date night, another chance to hang out with close friends. We can't even get ahead. We're given no miracles. There's no prophets that have even one word for us, and none of us knows how long this will be. How long will the enemy play these games in my mind without a single challenge? Why do you hold back a healing touch? Is your hand stuck in your pocket again? But you, God, are too big for me to find real comfort in just running away. You're obvious to my mind and laugh at my attempts to disprove you. The skeptic has nothing good enough to attack you with, and there's not even a good alternate explanation for why I'm alive. So you're clearly good, and I know you're better than the alternative. And if I can't disprove you, and I can't really hate you, where should I go? I mean, you gave me this great wife and these kids to begin with. You brought me this far and showed me that living to help others is much better than to hurt others. So how can I even go back? But look, the enemy is winning here, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, aren't we your family? Don't let us keep getting discouraged. Remember that you promised to help us, and that doesn't seem to be showing up lately. Don't let this destroy us. We're poor and needy. Aren't we the ones you're supposed to save? These thoughts need to be challenged. I just need you to show up. My family needs you to show up. We could really use a miracle. Now, I wrote that for me, not for you. But in that moment, when I read it out loud to a group of guys, there was so much healing that came from it. Someone in this room could write a letter to God and share it with one person. Or write a letter to the offender, or to the person who betrayed you, or to that person who's responsible for what happened to you. And that's not an easy thing to do, but it's a possible thing to do. And it might be a helpful thing to do. So the way we're going to close this time is we're going to have the band come up, and I'm going to pray for you guys as we go into this time, because you're going to need this. But I want you to ask yourself, what's disappointed me? Like, what is not in my box that I thought would be there by now? Okay? Maybe you think it might happen in the future, but you're frustrated that it just hasn't even happened right now. And put a word to it. God, I'm upset that this is not happening, that my daughter is that sick, and you can't do anything about it. And if you just take a quiet moment and put words to it in your own minds, I think you might find that there's a step of healing that you just took. But I know that that's only possible with the help of God. So let me pray for you as you go into this awkward time with the Lord, and he will make it special. Jesus, only you know the soul. You're the defender of my heart. And you're the only person who claims to know the deepest depths of our despair, our disappointment, our frustration, our broken hopes and dreams. So God, for every person in here who has a deep disappointment, I pray that you would bring it surface right now. Bring it to surface quickly, Lord, that they can see it, identify it, call it by name. Ask you to deal with it, Lord, that they would be sincere and honest and open. That nobody here would let their night be wasted because it's late, because this isn't the moment, because today is the only day we've got. So I pray for every person here, myself included. If there's work left to be done in me, start with me, please, tonight. I could use another touch from you for sure.
we can lay down and ask everything. And Lord, even through that, God, you teach us. And you encourage us even in our valleys, God. You have the ability to encourage and to bring hope where it feels hopeless, and to bring strength where we are weak, God. Thank you, God, for these people that you have given us these stories, God, so that we could relate, so that we can know that we're not alone. Even you, Jesus, you asked the Father. You said, would you take this from me? But if not, I will fulfill it, and you are still good. Even Jesus, you did that. Even Jesus, you were tempted. And so, Lord, tonight we just come to you and we thank you that in every single season you are there. And we can trust you. And we can trust whatever it is that's in our box. Whatever it is that we have trusted you for, you ultimately hold us in your hands, and you know what is good for us. And you have a plan for each and every one of us. Thank you that you are our creator, our sustainer through it all, Jesus. We love you and we thank you for this night. I pray that this incredible message that you have spoken through Sean, God, would not fall on our deaf ears, but Lord, that it would pierce us and touch our hearts, so we would leave this place encouraged and not defeated. We would leave this place fired up and excited for what you're going to do, and not the failures that have happened, God, but the great and mighty things you have in store. So thank you, God, that we can trust you. We love you. We praise you. We're just going to keep playing, and if you would like to stay, we would love for you to stay. We're just going to keep worshiping him tonight. The prayer teams are up here. If you would like to come and be prayed for, they would love to talk with you. They would love to talk with you. So don't hesitate. Whatever it may be that's on your heart, they want to partner with you and pray for you. So you are dismissed, but again, if you would like to stay,